Hello again and welcome to the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything in franchising. And once again today I'm at the Coochie Hydrogreen office or headquarters office here in Canberra, and I'm joined by another franchise owner, this time from the Newcastle region, Michael Morrison. How you going, Michael?
Very good, Glenn. Yourself?
Very good, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, mate.
Yeah, you're lucky last today, aren't you?
Yeah, pressure's on. Pressure's on.
Pressure is on. You've been sitting there watching and listening.
Yes, nervous anticipation, but no, all good.
Oh, I notice you look very calm and comfy to me. So you are a 4-year veteran, I think it is, in
3.5.
Coochie Hydrogreen?
Yeah,
3.5?
3.5. Started with the company in interesting times for the country and the globe in March 2020.
And we were just talking about that in a bit of a brief, weren't we? So you had the magic, I think you said the 23rd of March 2020.
Yes.
An interesting time to start a business.
Yeah, chaos, mayhem, uncertainty, and that probably, in a way, it's probably set me up for where we are today. Mm-hmm. As a franchise owner, just by it teaches you a few different things with a bit of resilience, and it's a word that's thrown around a lot these days. But
probably too much, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it does. I mean, it's kids, it's all resilience, all that stuff.
But
in business, it's just mental toughness and what you got to do and back yourself. And we hit the ground running literally. And COVID was, as I was speaking to earlier, Glenn, I think COVID from a Coochie Hydrogreen perspective, I think if they did a national sort of like dump on where things and businesses went, I believe Coochie would be one of the best success stories in that COVID period because of the fact that we were still able to operate in a gardening environment, outdoors, no contact with clients, talk to them through glass or whatever, or on the phone, and our business just went from strength to strength. I think when I started, I think I was about the 32nd or 33rd franchise owner in the company. Now we've almost doubled that and some since then.
Inside 2.5, 3 years.
Absolutely,
amazing.
yeah. As a group, yes.
Yeah. So what was it about that period that you saw the advantages happening with, and how did you see it functioning and operating on the ground? Especially as a new franchise owner, you would have a very different perspective from an existing franchise owner. Probably.
Absolutely. It was sort of like, you're completely autonomous. In Newcastle, there was nothing from pretty much the Hawkesbury or from Hornsby to the Queensland border. So,
and as I said, no one was getting through the Queensland border.
No, not unless you were duct taped on the side of a truck, mate. So that was the only way to get through. But yeah, it was one of those things. I looked at it as a huge opportunity for me individually, but also that the brand was. I did a lot of research on the brand, and it's a really an Australian success story from some brothers that come up with a concept that then's now to what it is today with, like 40,000 clients, 75 operators, and quite a lot of us like myself and Ash and Kenny and that, we operate multiple sort of areas. We have employees and those sort of things I think in themselves are a true success of when you get in and have a go,
Yeah, and from my understanding of it, and I've seen quite a lot of it, obviously over the last couple of years in doing some work with the team, it's a great service business, isn't it? It's a service done for you, for customers, and I think it's the real attraction of it. Yeah,
for sure. I think one of the things that we all pride ourselves on, and none of us are any different, is that it is truly it's a personable relationship business, and I think people undervalue sometimes the actual value of a relationship, and you build that rapport and that ongoing relationship with kids, with families, and you grow with them like they do, You start with a household that's got a newborn, and the next thing you know, you're there the day the mum's taking them to kindergarten with the tissues and cup of tea moment,
Amazing.
And you see a lot of that. So the relationships is huge, and I think that sets you up as an individual small business owner that once you've got the rapport with a client, nothing's off limits. They'll talk to you about most things, and I think that the old analogy is if you don't know about something, you can't fix it. It doesn't matter whether it's in life or whether it's in work or with their lawn. And that's the way I approach it with them. Say, I'm here, my phone's never off. No question's a silly question. I'd rather know about it than find out 2 months later when I've come back for a next visit that there's something wrong.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we were talking to a Coochie Hydrogreen franchise owner up on the Gold Coast recently, and he was telling me stories about plenty of cups of tea with little ladies on porches and stuff like that as he finishes his work for the day. And just pure, like you talk about, pure relationship building all the time, getting close to your customers and knowing your customers.
Oh, look, that's the key to anything. You've got to understand their wants and needs because not everyone's got the same desired outcome for their lawn. So you have to, ask them what are they looking to get out of their lawn. In a lot of cases these days, where people are spending more and more time at home because of, it's expensive to go out and things like that. They're building their homes around, their pools, their play equipment.
That resortification. So you sort of are part of that resortification of the home almost.
Absolutely. Well, it's an ongoing beautification process, if you like.
Yeah.
But what it does is, young families particularly saying, well, I want my lawn bindi free, I want it weed free, but I want it healthy, I want it soft, and I just want to look at something that's like carpet. And we can,
Is environmental come up much for you about the environment?
Look, it does.
Do customers ask about that?
Yeah, they do. And and everyone's got their own opinion and all that sort of stuff. But everything we use carries full turf registration. It's safe for animals. All of us, there's no issues, and we stand by that. And that's the thing good about the industry. And most people, I hand on heart, I've had no issues or clients that haven't done the service because they're worried about their $5,000 cavoodle falling over because it's licked the grass. So that sort of stuff just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so okay. I've actually been reading a bit of stuff lately about. We all thought the saviour was going to be fake turf. That a few years ago it was about saving water because of fake turf, and now fake turf are talking about its environmental impact anyway.
Yeah, there's a few things about that. I mean, you talk to guys that play hockey and all that sort of stuff, and there's been a lot of issues globally with those sort of things with synthetics. But a funny story: when I first started, I was trained by Luke, who was our operations at the moment. I was trained on the Gold Coast. We drove past this lawn; it was synthetic. He said, "Don't laugh, we're going back to spray that." I'm going, "What do you mean?" He said, look closely, it's full of weeds. The bloke gets us to go and spray the weeds in his synthetic grass because the seeds germinate in the sand profile.
Wow.
So I just
got to spray it anyway.
And I tell that story all the time, and it's a very expensive thing. And synthetic grass, the average person can spend $10,000 on a 50 square metre front bit of synthetic.
Yeah.
So it's,
especially done right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, you've got to get done properly. If not, it'll last 2 seconds. So,
yes.
But yeah, environmental is one thing, but I mean, we get around that quite. It's not an issue. We hand on heart know what we're doing. We're fully trained technicians in what we apply, and it's all safe. And yeah, it's a visual business. That's the thing. It's a visual business, and as long as you set the clear expectations with the client, they will know exactly what to get out of that lawn, and I take them through that process.
So I know that you've had a diverse experience in getting to this, like many people have in businesses. They find themselves in the second part of their life, I suppose. So now you've had 2 long-term corporate careers. Talk me through those corporate careers you've had before Coochie Hydrogreen.
Yeah, very different to turf.
To spraying lawns, yeah.
Yeah. So I started as a 23-year-old. I was given an opportunity as a territory manager with a large oil company called Valvoline, which is the world's first, world's finest was their logo. So I was given an EF Falcon and a set of keys and said, off you go, mate, and go and learn about it and sell it. So I was there for 12 years. I was in Newcastle as a territory manager for about 9 years, and then I was fortunate enough to be asked to go to Sydney as a state sales manager. Was there for 18 months into that, and then moved into the state manager's role.
So what was that with Valvoline, selling oil?
Yeah, everything, lubricants, car care products, both industrial, commercial, automotive, retail, the whole lot. Was a whole myriad of what we did. And then, as I said to you when we were chatting earlier, a bit of a moment that will never get out of my brain is I was away because I used to travel a fair bit, so I just go out and spend time with my reps in regional New South Wales and so forth.
There'll be a lot of time away doing that.
Yeah, it was probably too much. I think that's probably one of the things that you realise, the old travelling salesman days where you turn up with a suitcase and open her up. Well, that's what it was like.
And you think nothing of it when you're in your 20s and early 30s and that you're just doing your thing.
Correct. And then we started our young family, and our eldest daughter was 3 at the time, and I was talking to her to say goodnight, and she said, "Oh, Daddy, you coming home in the dark tonight or the dark tomorrow?" And that actual moment just hit me in the head, and I said, right, I don't want my daughter thinking that I'm just go in the dark, come home in the dark. So basically then I started planning my own exit strategy out of that just to get a better lifestyle. And I was commuting from the Central Coast to Sydney basically.
Which is a lot of hours.
150K round trip every day. Left with the tradies and came home with a suit and ties at 7 o'clock at night. And
That's
then
a massive commitment. How long did you do that for?
I did that commute for 3 years, and it's certainly, I don't know how people do it for 10
life
and 20.
out of you.
Oh yeah, it's just you're in a different space in everything.
Yeah, I used to do Gold Coast to Brisbane every day. I couldn't do it now. I mean, it's a nightmare. I see people doing it now.
Well, you can use it to do 2 ways. I used to use it as the mind clearer. So when I got home, everything that was on the desk that day was left there, and basically the mind was clear when you walked in the door. So that was probably that was good. And then after that, I then went total full circle. Then went and worked for a multinational international bank, HSBC. And
how did you transition to that? How did you transition from state manager there for Valvoline into corporate banking?
Well, it was weird. I was playing golf. A bloke
where all deals happen.
Who was absolutely. He was on the tee behind me, this bloke, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I heard you're looking for a gig." And I said, oh, yeah. So we met up the next week for a coffee, and it was a role of looking after retailers. So it wasn't as if I was actually going in and doing corporate banking and business banking. It was more about looking after the retailers, like your major leading brands like, your 40 Winks, your Snooze, your Bingley, JB Hi-Fi, all the electrical retailers.
What is it looking after them as
looking after an interest-free space? We had a team that worked in the cards business, so in the credit card business, that were charged with basically more credit cards getting out in the market through the bank, and then getting customers onto the interest-free profile through that.
So you get a mattress or something, you get interest-free period or something like that. Yeah.
But again, it had its drawbacks because from that, when I say drawbacks, not in the product, but in the fact that because we were a bank and a global bank, there was a huge responsibility on diligence and proper lending. So it's not like some of the other people where you hear all these stories at the moment now with all your afterpays,
buy now, pay later stuff,
those sort of things there. We weren't in that space competing directly with that because our product was completely different.
And it's regulated differently, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Like banking regulations are massive. So and I was in that for 13 years, and then as we spoke, and could be the wife and that with the American pharmaceutical.
I was telling you my story,
They all come through and they go, we're doing a bit of operational efficiency. So I said, you're handing money out, are you? So I think 7 of us put our hand up for the redundancy packages, and as I said, 85 years worth of banking walked out the door the day that we left, and that was September 2019.
Okay.
When I finished with that.
So that was a bit of a surprise to you, was it, that this was going to happen, or you had a bit of an inkling?
There was a bit of underswell on it for a while because of just the market that we're in, and because of GFC and that, they tightened up a lot of practices within lending, which they had to do.
Yep.
And that's why Australia's been very solid, up until recent times around the way they lend money. So they've got the best banking practices in the world, and that's why people are saying if you can't afford it, you're not getting it. So, and then good thing to be out of there.
So what was your first thoughts then? So what were your first thoughts that moment that redundancy came through?
Well, I could probably swear, but I won't. It was sort of like, oh, geez. Okay, I was in my late 40s. And, you hear these stories about when you're 20, it's a bit easier to get a gig than when you're late 40s. But all the loyalty factors are out of a lot of businesses these days. There's no...
Yeah, you've been with us for this period,
it doesn't mean anything, Guys are switching jobs like they're changing underwear, and you think to yourself, well, I've stayed 25 years in 2 jobs. I'm very loyal to a brand. Once I get into it, I really put my heart and soul in it, and I bleed that colour.
Yep.
And then I'm thinking, geez, now I've got to do something. But people had always said to me, you should be working for yourself.
Yep.
Because of that corporate grounding that you have, and you learn about your marketing, your sales.
So you're very well-rounded.
Absolutely, in more ways than one. I haven't got a full body shot, have you? So that might be a bit different.
We'll keep it tight, shall we? Keep it tight on this.
Yeah, so with those sort of things there, it taught me a whole bit about business, sales, marketing, relationship building, the whole lot, and then just blend all that together with what we do here at Coochie Hydrogreen, and it's just a proven a model that's worked for me.
So what was the process in finding something? So you decided, okay, you're listening to people over a long period saying,
yep.
So you obviously thought you're probably ready with your background and experience in education. People are saying you should be doing something for yourself. Yep. What did you start out by looking for? What was your thinking?
Well, I was looking to, originally before I bought in, I was actually looking to go back to be an employee. But then I kept getting phone calls from these people going, well, why do you want to apply for this job? It's a downgrade from what you've done. And I said, well, did you ever ask the question that I've just probably had enough of dealing with staff and all the other bits and pieces, and I want to just go to work, do my job well,
get
paid for it and go home.
Yeah.
And I just said to myself, I'm sick of getting all these phone calls, and I then started searching businesses. And then this one popped up. And
so you found this online?
Yeah, found it online. I just, for some reason, one day I just typed seek business and just looked locally what was available, and then the picture that's on the wall over here came up, and I Googled the picture because it didn't have the actual name.
Is that the truck one?
No, this one over here. It didn't have the logo or anything in it. So then I searched it, and then I found out what the business was, and then reached out, similar like Ash did, reached out to the broker. And then I was put into Anya rang me, and then...
Who's the CEO of Coochie? Yep.
Our lovely CEO, yes. And she came to Newcastle, and we had a coffee and drove her around and showed her what it was about, and then the rest is history, so to speak.
So now... What you didn't mention all that is you already had an interest in horticulture.
Yeah,
so
true.
you told me off
yes,
camera that,
I did.
And you said, by the way, I did this. And
yes,
so
I did.
Tell me about this interest in horticulture.
So to get out of that corporate stress, I've been doing cricket, turf cricket wickets for 20 years. So that's where I had an interest in turf, and because they've got to look good when they're the wickets. So I said 20 years doing that, and still doing that now, as well as the business. And that was just my out. Put the headphones on, cut it, roll it, mark it, water it, feed it, do all those sort of things, and that's what then set me into just going into completely different angle.
Yeah, So it's almost what you do now, isn't it?
Correct. Exactly. It's exactly what we do.
It's almost therapeutic, isn't it?
It's a therapeutic, unique liquid treatment that we do, and it's it's just very satisfying when clients say to you, "I've lived here for 30 years and my lawns never look as good as this." Whatever you do, just keep doing it. So thank you.
So what does the business look like now? So you've got March 2020. Yep. So we're now what are we now? It's now September 2023. Sometimes I forget.
Yep.
So 3.5 years in, what does the business look like now?
The business, it's you can beat your chest. I'm pretty proud of what we've done. Where we've grown it from a greenfields region like Kenny and like Ash, where there's no clients, to sitting around 750 bi-monthly customers that we have at the moment. And yes, some drop off for reasons where they sell houses or they move to other areas and so forth.
And you have no lock-in contracts.
No lock-in contracts, and that's a big seller for us. 750 clients. I've got 2 vehicles. I've got an employee that's with me, and we're probably in that next building stage of. We'll get to a point where we'll need to add another person into the business, which will spend some time with me training up first, like my employee did, and then put them out by themselves as well to take it to that next level, to get it there. I mean, I'm ahead of where I wanted to be. I had a 5-year plan of 1,000 clients, so I'm pretty comfortable we will get to that over and above. And I also had a plan early on. The person said, I don't want you to want a truck. So I ordered a truck within the first 9 months.
Because you can go either or, can't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big commitment financially to purchase the vehicles.
So what's the difference operationally? What difference is it having to your business?
Well, the truck definitely is more efficient because it's bigger. You can carry more stock in there. You can do more lawns, but you have to refill your tank to do your mix-up. So from that point of view, and it's more spacious. I mean, it's a mobile office because you're doing everything out of your truck, and in a ute, they're a little bit tight and a little bit confined.
Yep.
And then you start putting 2 people in a ute, she's like the sardines in a can, mate. She just don't work. So the truck's got a lot of space, got a lot of benefits, and it is a moving billboard. Yep. The advertising that on those vehicles, they are. If you're missing one of them, you're going to Specsavers. Because
promoting God knows how many businesses today.
You cannot miss it. You cannot miss it. So those sort of things there just keep organically growing the business as well.
Yeah. So what is it? You have more than one territory, don't you?
Yeah, I've got 3 regions. So as I said, you can probably learn to be a little bit selfish and arrogant to a degree because you've done a fair bit of work when you start in these regions, and every franchisee that comes in has this sort of, they're not really aware of how quickly you can grow your model, and how you're trying to, you probably feel like you have the right to, where possible, to buy an adjoining region if it's up for sale.
So you're trying to buffer yourself for the future.
Yeah, you're trying to give yourself a little bit of a sounding board all around you as well. So 2 of my regions are close together; they adjoin. The other one's a little bit away, like 20-minute drive.
Yep. But
it's a standalone, and it's a very big region with a lot of opportunity. So
you can purchase additional territories exclusively, and then to run those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the model when you look at the franchising in Australia, it's a model that is second to none, where you're not having 35 other people with the same trailer, if you like, coming in, same service coming in. We actually buy a PMA of the suburbs.
PMA
and that's
is
ours. Your postcodes.
Postcode,
yeah. So we're buying that region, and that geographically is ours. So we own. Now, if we end up putting 3 vehicles of our own in there, that's fine because that's our region. We can do whatever we like. There's no restrictions on that as to how many vehicles and how many employees you have. So it's all about managing your time, being more efficient, and then going from there.
So what do you see more territories into the future? What does that look like?
Oh no, I think we're pretty locked away in Newcastle and the Hunter Valley with the regions that are there. There's 3 other fellow operators up there that have got their own regions as well, and we work pretty closely together. A couple of us, other guys a little bit further away, but no, we're pretty much. For me, it's more about probably expanding out with more vehicles and staff down the track in those 3 operating regions. Yeah.
So what do you see as the key factors in success as a franchise owner right now, even compared to your previous corporate? What do you see?
I always say, and whenever people ring us to talk about getting into the network and those sort of things, I'm just genuine in saying to them, look, the only thing that's going to stop you from being successful is yourself. There's no barriers there against it, because if you focus on all the negatives, that's too easy to do. You just got to focus on the positives that are out there, and the positives are we've got a great brand, we've got great support, we've got a great product, and that just sells itself. And then you just be confident. You can't take knockbacks as negatives and as personally, because if you do that, you won't be successful. You just move on and say thanks for the opportunity. And when they know their lawn's not going to be where it is, they'll end up ringing you. And there's so many of that. You get that. Oh yeah, I remember you, Glenn. I was there 12 months ago, mate. How's the dog going?
Yeah.
And that happens quite regularly.
I can imagine. Yeah. So the previous quotes you've done and comebacks around.
I had a guy just this week, 2 years ago, I quoted, he rang me up yesterday, and I went and quoted before I came to Canberra. And 2 years ago, we basically got a quote and said, oh, mate, no, I know boats, so I can do it myself. Well, 2 years later, mate, karma. So,
but you'll do the work for him.
Absolutely, I will. With a smile, I'll take his money.
Oh, no problems. Great way to finish, Michael Morrison. So, franchise owner, Newcastle region, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for telling your story, mate. Great insights.
Cheers.
And that's it for this one of episode of Franchise Everything podcast. Once again, I'll say again, if you like what we're doing here and you'd like to see more stories, please like, comment, review. It helps us out a lot. It lets the algorithm know that this is great information for people who are interested in it. And we'll catch you again in the next one soon.